Hey, good evening, everybody. I apologize for the technical glitches. I know, just awful situation happening there. But we got on. Google finally verified me, said this is Dan Bach, and we're happy to be with you here on Grinders Live. Obviously, some unfortunate circumstances took place yesterday over on FanDuel, and we felt that, you know what, we really wanted to talk to them and get the lowdown on what happened, the situation around it, and what they plan to do moving forward. And really excited in the unfortunate circumstances, but at least very open to join us here on the show is one of the co-founders of FanDuel, Tom Griffiths. Tom, thanks for your time. I can tell you've been a busy man answering support emails left and right and trying to get the bottom of exactly what happened. So let's start there. Take me through yesterday morning. When did you guys kind of notice things weren't seem to be working right, and kind of what exactly can you say about what took place yesterday morning?
Yeah, sure. No, appreciate you having us on. So yesterday things were running really smoothly. It was at 12:23, so just under 40 minutes before game start, that we started to have difficulties. What users experienced on the site was, in some cases, slowdowns, and in some cases, pages were failing. So, this is obviously the absolute worst time for issues to occur, and it made edits for some people difficult or impossible to make. And so, serious issue that we kind of got the whole team rallied behind to try and resolve for our users.
Now, I know that you guys obviously feel horrible about this, and I made the statement this morning that it's pretty much unacceptable based on your guys' standing and within the daily fantasy industry. I mean, how frustrating was this for you? I mean, I found it a little strange. Week 1 went off without a hitch, and then we get this week 2. So was there an uptick in users this week? And I mean, right now, what's the situation behind the scenes? I mean, how many people you have looking into this and trying to get to the bottom of it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we did have a smooth week 2. We're going to have a smooth week 1. We're going to have a smooth week 3. And yes, we're frustrated that this happened, but the main thing is that we feel terrible that our users were frustrated at this. What we've seen from our logs is that although for the people that were on the site, they experienced slowdown and issues, we have only seen complaints and support tickets from around 5% of the people who entered yesterday. So we had around 300,000 people play FanDuel yesterday. We got around 10,000 support tickets. Not all of those were from unique users, some repeat send-ins. And then we actually ended up refunding 3,000, or just over 3,000 people. So just over 1% of users got bailouts and refunds. So while this was a terrible, terrible, frustrating experience for the people who were on the site, in the user base overall, so most people didn't experience it. So that doesn't mean that we take it lightly. We have the entire team, both in engineering, so that's over 30 engineers, doing nothing else apart from ensuring this doesn't happen again. I completely agree it's unacceptable. And we've had a customer support team of 20 working round the clock, late last night into the early hours of this morning, and up again first thing this morning again to get back to users and have this resolved as quickly as possible.
Now, let's go through the situation yesterday. Was refunding and basically assuming the lineups that people created, was this the plan, I guess, if this ever took place? Did you guys consider basically canceling the whole slate? Kind of take me through that process and the timing of it, because obviously if you were going to cancel the whole slate, you would have had to have done it right off the bat. Take me through that, because there had to be an awful difficult decision on how to handle this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are situations we run through. We talk about these scenarios. We have a structured escalation process where if someone sees there's a site issue, it goes up the chain of customer support through issue resolution and then ultimately to Nigel and myself. So at that level, we did talk about different resolutions. We looked at the option of cancelling everything, but we always go to the data. And what we saw was that although this was a severe issue for people on the site, or some people on the site, 95% of users weren't affected. So if we were to cancel 100% of contests, those 95% of people would have seen their contest cancelled, wouldn't have known why, and would have had a terrible experience, whether they're a new user or an existing user. So we made the call to do it selectively. We gave people the opportunity to tell us that they wanted a refund, and we honored those refunds throughout yesterday into the evening.
Yeah, I mean, were you guys pretty lenient on, that cutoff? Because, you say you refunded 1% of the action that you had in place yesterday. I mean, do you think that a fair amount of that 1% wasn't even people who were affected and were basically taking, I think you quoted, you said the term bailout?
Yeah, that's right. So it was 1% of the users. That skews higher than 1% of the action.
Okay. And what was the approximate?
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I mean, I was just gonna say, what was let's just talk dollars and cents here, about how much money in canceled entries did FanDuel absorb yesterday?
So we've been running the calculations. It's not final until tonight's games settle, but it looks like we will lose over $500,000 on the resolution yesterday.
Now, I think one of the biggest conflicts and problems people have had is, they kind of view it as a conflict of interest because technically, you guys, own an interest in these entries that you bought. Let's say one of these entries would go on to win an FFFC qualifier or something along those lines. I mean, how would you handle something like that? And how do we know which entries are, I guess, canceled and which ones are not?
Sure. So the first thing to say is in no way are we going to make money on this. We take on people's lineups that they can't edit because of injuries and late scratches. We have taken on generously people's lineups where some could say they weren't doing so well in contests and then they ask for a refund. So we don't have, there's no chance that we're going to make money on this. Like I said, we're looking to lose over $500,000. In certain circumstances, like if somehow we were to win a qualifier, in that particular circumstance it would go to the second place seat. But this isn't a net positive for FanDuel in any way, shape or form. We're taking over $1 million worth of loss here.
Now, how do you feel about the communication you had with players? It seemed like a lot of people were frustrated, didn't get responses back. I know for a fact your team was working night and day. Probably a lot of them did not get much of sleep whatsoever. I mean, how tedious of a process was it to kind of talk with everybody? And do you think you could have done things a little bit differently, a little bit more efficiently moving forward if something like this would ever happen again?
Sure. But we're definitely, once all the refunds are processed and everybody is satisfied, we're definitely going to do a post-mortem and take a look to see if there's anything that we could do better. Just due to sheer volume, we were pulling in emergency shifts of our CS reps. We were pulling in people outside of customer support to try and tackle these 10,000 tickets in 4 hours, which we achieved. So the number one focus was kind of the individual resolutions through our standard customer support channels. Could we have done better? Potentially, and we'll certainly be taking a look at that. But we're happy that everyone who asked for a refund has had their refund processed within 24 to 30 hours.
Was it impossible to? I mean, you made it an all or nothing situation. Why was it like that? Why couldn't you say, this lineup? Obviously, I had Carson Palmer in it, or I had Doug Martin in it. I don't want. I did 30 lineups. I want all of them gone. Why make it an all or nothing proposition for players?
Sure, it's a good question. I mean, I think we would all have preferred to have been able to have the time to do individual selective entry bailouts. However, just down to the sheer volume of users, like I say, 10,000 tickets to process. You've got to go through each one of those, go to the user's account, verify what they're talking about. Ideally you'd get the ID numbers, but often people say, I want this lineup with Carson Palmer cancelled, but my Aaron Rodgers lineup I want to keep. So you kind of got to go through the user's account to figure that out. Sometimes they'll say, I want everything under 10-man left, but everything over, cancelled. And so just to be that detailed at that volume and to turn it around in 24 hours was impossible. So we had to go with all or nothing, which
I know,
we've heard from users.
yeah, I know that the key moving forward, though, Tom, I think for everybody is going to be, trust in you guys that this isn't going to happen again. I know you've got people working tirelessly on it. I mean, how much of a challenge is it to, bring back confidence in players to say, hey, on FanDuel I am going to have an A+ experience?
Sure. I don't want to make excuses. We know this was incredibly frustrating for people. And first and foremost, we want to apologize to the users that experienced that issue. We recognize it's unacceptable, and we are doing everything in our power to ensure that it never happens again. We've seen, once you get to a certain size of fantasy site, we've seen the likes of Yahoo, ESPN go down this season. It's not an excuse. We hold ourselves to a higher standard, especially given how much money is on the line. But we're doing everything in our power and have the entire team focused on ensuring this never happens again.
Well, Tom, it was a really disappointing situation, I know, for a lot of the daily fantasy community, and I put a lot of faith in your team to rectify the issues that might have taken place this week one. I know it's got to be hard for everybody over there at FanDuel to kind of deal with this. I mean, last question, what's like the morale around there? I mean, are you guys ready for week 3 to kind of roll around? Because I've seen you guys have already got your games posted. You have another $1.25 million tournament. I mean, I know you want everything behind you, but I have to imagine that everybody had to just be frustrated / exhausted about exactly kind of what took place this weekend, and are ready to move forward. But it's got to be a difficult thing to do.
We are. I mean, I think we've just been incredibly excited about what we've seen on the site this football season. Record-breaking volume in week 1. We blew away all of our targets. We've had to increase the size of our Sunday Million to keep up with demand, and that's going to go up in future weeks. We would love to have people give us the opportunity to show them flawless experience this Sunday. We're confident we will deliver that, and we're looking forward to increased volume as we go forward in the season, even bigger prizes, and then, as we all know, at the end of the season, our 10 million competition. So we're disappointed with how things went yesterday. We apologize to users, but we're super excited about the rest of the season.
Tom, certainly appreciate you stepping forth and getting away from the craziness that is, I'm sure, FanDuel HQ, and bringing us up to speed on everything. And we look forward to a optimistically smooth rest of the NFL season over there. Week 1 was great. Let's just duplicate that for the next 15, 16 weeks, and we'll all be happy. But Tom, thank you so much for your time here tonight on Grinders Live and talking with us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for joining us on this quick special, talking a little bit about what happened yesterday. We will obviously, if anything more happens, we will bring you that information cast on the forums, and hopefully they answered some questions for you here today. And till tomorrow, everyone, have yourself a great night, and we'll see you.